Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Nature Folklore Sessions. It's 5th of June, 2022. Well, thank you again for joining me on our weekly time of exploring nature-centered folklore, connecting this with your favorite sanctuary space, and expressing inspired visions from your sanctuary through your poetry, writing, art, craft, performance, and problem solving. Now, today is part one of our 4-part summer blooming, and it's our Garden Sanctuaries is the theme today. And this is actually the last broadcast from the Caracroy studio here. It's very strange it being the last because walking around thinking of the memories of all of the activity we had here and the groups, I definitely need to get back into that, perhaps in a new location. Anyway, next Sunday, I'm emigrating into the Hive digital hub in Carrick-on-Shannon. Because the internet at home in Leicester down, it's just not stable enough, unfortunately, to hold a live broadcast. But the one thing at the Hive, it means that I'll be able to broadcast in maybe clearer video. I'm broadcasting on 4H0p at the moment to match our internet. I'll go up to 720p, and maybe I could go up to 080, which is only benefiting the YouTube, but doesn't make any difference on Facebook. Anyway, I'll talk about our guest that we got today. We got B. Smith, who's waiting for us in the background. She's going to be the first up for us, which is fabulous. We got Catherine Hatt. We've got a song from her. She's coming up. Susan Samuel is back with us. She's showing around her garden. Cathal should be with us at some point. I've got a picture of him, Cathal Trainer, lovely poet that's on every now and again. We got Grace Wells, a lovely poet there as well. Penny Stevenson is showing us around her garden. And that's what it is our Garden Sanctuaries. And these Nature Folklore Sessions, video and tree sanctuary support, they're all brought to you for the support of our appreciated subscribers who subscribe through Patreon, and our PayPal donors, and people who donate through buymeacoffee.com. And there's the Patreon there. I'm going to be begging a bit more because I have to pay for the Hive, which is adding to the subscriptions each month. Anyway, you subscribers help me to be able to be live with you today and share what we got. And some of you will be watching now, and some of you watching later that are subscribers. So thank you all again for your continued support, because without it, I just couldn't afford to be here and fund this show. So that's fantastic. Thank you. So let's see early birds here today, because it is our June holiday here and the UK. So I feel very lucky with anybody who's come aboard. Cliff Carr's here from the Wirral, which is fantastic. His hello hasn't come up yet. There it is. Good afternoon from Cliff Carr. And we got Jean Soriano from North Carolina. Fantastic. We got here, and Sharon Nichols is here. Hello from the sunny Cairngorms in Scotland. Great to hear it's sunny there, not so sunny here. Not like yesterday. We had a beautiful, warm, sunny day here yesterday. Beautiful sunset last night. Beautiful sunset this morning. But then the clouds moved in. But certainly appreciate it, because the people in Cork and Wicklow are saying, and even me, they're saying how they're a bit washed out today. So we'll take what we got, which is very nice. Anyway, so let's on with the show. And when I first introduced this edition of our Garden Sanctuaries, I was thinking of the garden enthusiasm that was fired up through the COVID lockdown. Gardening really became the thing. It was very difficult to order stuff from garden centres because people were just buying anything. They were getting right into their gardens, weren't they? But it also did mean that the annual Bloom Festival in Ireland was not happening. So I thought, let's have our online Bloom Festival. And that was a couple of years ago with this thought. And the idea was to have this Sunday that would have been the Bloom Festival be a time for viewers to show off how their gardens are. Well, this year was a return to the live bloom. Boy, I bet, and what I gather, because the whole of Ireland is out and about, very popular. I think there's a photo of the bloom here, and there's some bloom here. That's the overshot. They must have caught that when it just opened, because give it another 10 minutes, that would have definitely been very busy. Anyway, it seems that the Bloom Festival is busier, perhaps than ever it's been, but I haven't been this year. I'm not really set up properly for roaming broadcast. I would have loved to have done a roaming broadcast the day we're in bloom. The only trouble with is I would have had to have it on a pole, because it's pretty impossible to see over the people to actually see the gardens. Anyway, it would be lovely to have roaming reporters at events that could tune in to us on Sunday. But I think we're away from that. We'd have to raise real big funds for that. Anyway, all is not lost this year, because our lovely resident guest poet, usually, B. Smith, she was at Bloom on the first day, on Thursday, along with the equally lovely Siobhan McMahon, who's not been a guest with us yet. And B posted a lovely bunch of photos of her Bloom Festival visit on Facebook. And so I asked B, I said, oh, could you actually present us a bit of Bloom and your story about it? So she's kindly accepted the invitation to talk about her visit for Bloom, talk about her photos and what was going on there for a few minutes. And she's actually taking time from the developing garden by her and by Tony, and of course the companion midges as well. So here we have B. Smith live. Good afternoon, B. She's looking very comfortable there.
Good afternoon, John. Are you referencing the photo of me in my midge-proof
I should have done
burqa that I would have to wear?
I should have done that. I didn't put the profile pictures up of the guests, so I should have put that one up. So, yeah.
I will look up my profile picture, but I did post one of what I have to wear many times in my garden. And today, I thought, will the Wi-Fi extend to just outside, where we have what we call tea on the terrace? But it's too midgy. I would have had to wear my midge-proof burqa.
It was midgy at Phoenix Park as well.
It wasn't on Thursday when we were there, right. But in working in our garden at the moment, especially this particular week, it wasn't bad yesterday. I didn't need it yesterday, but this morning when I went out to water, definitely needed it. So, fortunately, Tony's relatively impervious to the midges. So
I have to wear a hat like yourself. Yeah, I have one of those bee hats.
I think they prefer blondes. They prefer blondes. So
I have to tuck it into the collars, and then the midges themselves block your visibility in the end. I end up putting midge spray on the actual hat so yes, it's quite a war.
I haven't got to that stage yet. But
I suppose that's coming. Anyway, with Bloom, I have lined up. You sent me some photos, which is fantastic, and. So there we go. There's the map. When I go there, I tend to head off to the green car park at the north end and come into that entrance too, because there always seems to be the latest people when you arrive early. But I gather you got the shuttle. Did they take you to the main entrance?
Well, actually, when we arrived, we didn't take the shuttle. Because when we took the train from Carrick-on-Shannon and then got the Lewis to Houston, and when we looked, and there were shuttle buses there were 3 double-deckers there, and they must accommodate about 60 people. The queue was just snaking down from the bus stand and around the corner back towards Houston Station, and there was a sign that says, "You are 25 minutes away from Bloom." So we actually walked. We figured
Wow.
it would be faster to walk. And this was at just the past 10 o'clock in the morning of the first day.
Oh, you didn't get
So
any of the taxis hail you down? Because that's what I find if I'm walking. There's always a taxi opens the door. I'll get you to Bloom for €10. You didn't have any of that.
we didn't know about that, but we
Right.
did. So we basically just we walked. I put in 15,000 steps that day
Oh, well, that's very good.
at Bloom. So yeah, so we did get the shuttle bus back when we left,
Okay.
and
Right.
when we were rather tired people after
Okay.
lunch.
Of
So
course. So, yeah, that was, and because I think that's the only occasion where I've actually seen taxi drivers hail the passengers. But okay. Anyway,
they
we'll go on
didn't
with the
hail us.
pictures. Right. So we got this one, and of course we got the bee's knees. What can you say about that one?
Well, I really liked the fact that they had so many insect hotels or motels. They were in a number of the exhibits, but this one also had all of the sort of flower species that attract bees with it. And I just thought, it was just dead cute. It was a small island outside in the plant retail area, and I just thought that was cute.
Ah,
So
lovely.
I went with that.
And right, the ferns here.
It's also I was taking photographs of shady plants, and I mean a lot of. I mean, I had Siobhan's daughter had one of those sort of shopping trolley things. We took that with us, which was
Oh,
really
wonderful.
handy. They did have a plant creche at Bloom for people, so you didn't have to carry your plants with you all day. And basically, you need to buy early when you go to Bloom. There was a rather attractive Aquilegia, because Aquilegias do really well here
They do.
at Lena, but it was a different colored one. And so I thought, and literally, this was like 11 o'clock in the morning, and some woman beside me grabbed the last pot that was available. And I went back later thinking, oh, maybe they've pulled some from the back and restocked, but no, they were gone. And
Uh,
likewise, I came back. Oh, this is a really interesting one because it shows sedums, and sedums do well here. But this is a sedum called lemon balm,
oh,
which
wow.
again, and it's with a lot of sunny plants, and we have a lot of sun. We're south facing, and again, this was on one of my inspiration photos. I went with the instruction by Tony to take lots and lots of photos, which I did.
Uh-huh.
So
And that looks like
ornamental
a plant.
alliums.
Yeah.
Ornamental alliums. This one in the front was the one that I thought was particularly interesting. We have, I mean, mostly we have onions for eating here. We
Yes.
have on occasion had the odd ornamental allium in the garden. And again, this was just simply because you can get so many different types that I just didn't know about.
Right. We're obviously into
Zen
the gardens
garden.
now.
Yeah. Now, you're absolutely right. Getting to the show gardens by lunchtime, you practically, it's like being at a jumble sale where you have to kind of elbow your way to the front to get a reasonable photograph. But the postcard, I was really impressed by the postcard gardens this year. And this was one of the postcard gardens. And
Wow.
basically, it's national schools and various community groups that presumably have submitted their ideas and have won a stand. And I would have said this was probably one of the best that I really, really enjoyed.
Oh,
the
lovely.
Zen garden, which has elements of sand. There is some water, but it's out of shot. And when I was sending you photos, I realized I just simply wasn't able to get a good angle because of, people.
Yes.
But I just felt this one was a particularly stunning example from the postcard
And of course,
gardens.
that's what, yeah, that's the sign for the postcards.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a
Uh,
community school that did that.
Right. And
This
is
one
this another
was,
postcard?
this is another postcard which was taken because some people love shoes, and this was basically taken as a tease to
Oh,
the shoe people in our life.
oh,
So, and
wonderful.
again, it is one of the postcard ones, and it's cheerful. And also, Tony has an old pair of shoes that he's been threatening to plant up for several years, and it hasn't happened yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And then,
again, I
of
this
course, you're back
yeah,
on. We're back onto the bugs and the pollinating
this
again.
was just the most stunning one.
I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the fact that they use both planting and the idea of like the turf or grass roof, and then having sort of miniature rockery plants
Yes.
surrounding it. I just thought it was really, really that it was a stunner.
That's great. Must be onto the bigger gardens now. Are we?
This was the Victorian walled garden, and I wish I had said. I don't think I did send it to you. One thing that really fascinated me was they had a rhubarb bed with the actual, pottery terracotta rhubarb forcing pots beside them,
Oh wow.
which were really, really extraordinary. And I realized this morning, oh, I don't think I sent that one to John. Again, this is Aquilegia, and it was very like the one that I tried to bag early on in the day. So
That's a
I
very
snapped it.
beautiful
And
one.
hopefully at some point I will be able to track it down.
Oh, wonderful. And
Sunny borders. Again, we have a lot of sun here in Codressica. And the other thing that I mean, it's not as noticeable in this one. You know how Sarah Raven really popularized cosmos? In gardening, every once in a while, there is a particular flower that has its moment when it becomes super fashionable, and this might be going back 20 years now, but cosmos and chocolate cosmos in particular
oh
was
yes,
one.
I have. I've had those here.
Yes,
Yes.
and what I noticed this year is delphiniums were everywhere.
Oh wow. Right.
Delphiniums and salvias were everywhere. So
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and again, I like the fact how in a sunny border they had things like daisies and hollyhocks and then these different alliums as well.
Yes.
And it doesn't show, but very low down they had snow in summer underneath it. And
R-
again, we've got a lot of full sunshine in this garden, and so it made for you know interesting. We're
Right.
developing what I call the Bridget's garden, which is very south facing, has a lot of sun, and peonies. Yes, I love
Yeah.
peonies, and again, they were loving the full sun, and we've had them in pots here. And if I can find a really hardy species, I'm going to have a go at
Oh,
putting one in
fantastic.
Bridget's garden. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, it's very good because when I've been to Bloom, the one thing people have relied on is those torch flowers. Everywhere had the torch flowers, and I haven't seen one yet. So there's a change. Anyway, where are we here with the straw?
This is one of the show gardens, and it's the one, I think it's the Aldi sustainable
Goodness.
one. And and it was a stunner. And I didn't send you, but even they made like hugel beds, and they also had piles of wood, in which wild bees could actually make homes in. It, they used everything, and yeah, you can see how they've done that. I had to go underneath the barrier to really get a good look at how they did that. But yeah, I was just absolutely taken. Some of them were kind of very modern, or they had this city urban garden, which of course didn't, which had like a gas fireplace in the wall and things like that.
I know.
Didn't appeal to me at all. But this one, I just felt really, it really drew me. And they've also got the woven like beehive in there, and they have used the cork, the corn stalks to make a sort of sculptural statement as well. I really, really, really impressed me.
Did UCD put a garden on? Because they usually do a lovely sustainable wild garden. They always come up with one of the best each year. Were they there?
If they did, I wasn't able to get close enough to clock it was theirs, quite frankly. And there was a sustainable forest one, and I think this is the Aldi sustainability one. But by and large, a lot of them were much more kind of
this one,
what I would call modern, urban, and sleek. Yeah, like that one, which was the DJs. I did take that that particular shelter enclosure as an idea to bring back to Tony, because he's always wanting to say he would really like to be able to be outdoors undercover and be able to play his music. And I thought, well, that might be an idea. That is an idea, possibly. I don't know that it would really blend in all that well, but once you see what someone else has done, you might think of how you might be able to do it differently.
Inspires the ideas. And the funny thing is, you saying that there's the DJs, they're outside of it.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that one was an interesting bridge one, and across a sort of a water course, and I just thought it was a very, very attractive. And we are going to be putting in a bridge, and I ran this past Tony, who in his function of health and safety risk assessment cooks and said, no, not safe enough for certain people. They were bound to have a mishap with it. But again, wanted to take the photo of the inspiration. He felt that the actual slight raised steps, even though it's beautiful, I really think it's beautiful, he thinks that it could be a slipper trip hazard for certain people who have been known to have accidents in the garden.
Yeah, that does happen on those wooden things, as we know from the Cavern and Burren. So there we go. And of course, you love this one, the hanging strawberries. It is a good one, lovely one.
Absolutely, all done in grow bags. And it was interesting because we were transplanting some strawberries, trying to figure out a place where we could put them. And then I saw this, and I thought, okay, this is an idea. And it may not be for this year, but we can work on it for next year.
Right, great. And then there was this fairly recognizable person wandering around.
Oh yeah, it was. This was hysterical. It was heaving at this point, and Siobhan and I were trying to find a sort of a way around the back to avoid crowds. And there was sort of like there was this knot of people, and traffic sort of stopped, and there was some sort of official army people there and some guards. But what I was seeing was a very smiley couple with their baby. And there was also like an ambulance in the background. And I said to this army guy, did someone have a baby here? And he said, no, the president is arriving. Will you please stand by?
Yeah, very good.
And it happened so fast, I only got a picture of him, on the back of his head, because he went past so fast.
Well, congratulations for getting some space to get in any kind of picture. So that's yeah, you were privileged, because when I was in that situation, it was Enda Kenny. So yeah, the president a bit more interesting. Right,
Well,
and
I'm
we got
really
this
next door
one.
to him. Oh, this is one again where they were just doing a lot with the delphiniums,
Yes.
and it just, I wanted to take, I wanted to memorialize the delphinium explosion at Bloom this year, and we were getting ready to go, and this one was actually in the plant nursery area, so
Hmm.
they were obviously wanting to flog a lot of them, but yeah, very, very popular in all of the gardens this year, all around the place.
Well, that was fantastic. Thank you for bringing a bit of bloom to us, B. Even though it is difficult to get the pictures once the people are in, it's just people, I know, because even on the back cloth that I got here, that's actually, I'm going to be talking about that. That was actually put on by the social farming in Leitrim, Drumshambo. So
Mhm.
I'll be talking a bit about that later. But there's always a class garden or two like that. And I'm glad you found that. And surprising that Audi came up with a wonderful one. So good for
Yeah,
Audi. So that's
yeah,
fantastic.
and yeah, and I was, I was very, the dairy farmers also did one on sustainability as well. So
Wow.
it was basically Aldi and the dairy farmers who did a garden that
Oh, that's
basically
great.
was promoting sustainability in the garden. So
Well, thanks so much for that. Well, thank you, B. Smith. They're usually here with poems, and we'll have you back soon with poems. So enjoy the garden
right.
this afternoon, and thank you for bringing Bloom to us. Thanks, B.
All
Thank
right.
you.
You're more than welcome, John.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that was great. A bit of bloom on the show for our garden, the first of our blooming series. That didn't sound right, did it? Anyway, moving on a bit now. I enjoyed our short water folklore series that we had over 2 weeks. I enjoyed it so much. And I'm semi-reluctant to leave that alone and move into this summer blooming series. But that was a great start from me. But actually, our next guest keeps us into the water folklore. It's Catherine Hatt. We haven't had Catherine on here before. And she was a guest that couldn't actually fit on last week. So we're going to feature a little today. Now, Catherine Hatt, she approached me with a song a couple of weeks ago. It's a song that she'd written and recorded. And it was about Princess Laban, who big, quite famous up north, had become a mermaid. Mermaid that was half salmon. I'm just getting back onto my pictures again, because it's nice to show some pictures. That's the most popular picture of the mermaid. Someone will be able to tell me where that is, but that's the one that's featured of Laban, and here's an artist's impression of her. There's various sites around Northern Ireland that are related to it, of course, including the River Bann as well. And Catherine said that the story of Laban is when she came across it, it was way over 9 years ago, and she's been captivated with that more than anything else as a musician for more than 9 years. And during those 9 years, she's hiked to several sites connected to the legend after discovering more things by going into library archives in Belfast and other places. And interestingly, after 9 years of looking into this, she has put together a multi-part song that actually lasts 9 minutes. But we're not having the whole 9 minutes today. But Catherine, she wrote this song on a lyre. There we go. It's an Irwin lyre, Sam Irwin up on the Antrim coast there, I think. It's one he made out of cherry wood. So that's what she plays along with on this. And there's also, not sure if it's someone else's, including what she calls is 100-year-old mandolute, which I gather is a mandolin that sounds like a lute. That's the best I can describe it. Sorry, I haven't got any pictures of that. And she included some field recordings of sites of the Laban story. And some of this, the recording that she did of the song, she actually deliberately put herself into a wet tiled bathroom to set the scene to get the feel of the zone for doing the song. I asked Catherine if she had a video or photos to support her song, and I'm going to put details of where you can hear the full thing. You can't see, it's just a singular picture at the moment. And I explained to her, this is a visual show. She thought it was a podcast. Anyway, unfortunately, Catherine also, she doesn't have any visual support for the song. So I edited less than 3 minutes from her 9-minute suite. And I put a few of my photos, a few other public domain photos. And hopefully Catherine will produce a fully visually support to her song soon, and I'll be able to share that with you all as well in full, which will be brilliant. But listening to the song, you get the feeling Catherine has been listening to the incredible string band, especially the Wee Tam Big Huge double album, because of the multi-change songs there. And also, I should have put a picture up, you might not recall Veggie Bunyan, her first album, Just Another Diamond Day. She sings a bit like Vashti, that's what reminded me. So here is Catherine Hatt. I'll locate the video whilst I'm chatting here. And these are some excerpts from her epic Liban song. And I'm going to post contact website music info after the show. So Catherine Hatt and Liban. Here we go. Let's get it going.
A teardrop in the ocean, a penny dropped into a well, becomes a spell. Turn the wheel, lift the bucket, draw me out. Driven deep, I cover my face. Home in the mist. Feel my pulse in the ripples, in the waves. Home in the mud, home in the mist. I let down my hair and run with the river. The moon is dancing on my back. Combing out my story, untangle my tale from the many nets of men. I fly swift as a salmon, up the stream I leap. My hair is the river, my eyes are the pebbles, and my heart is beating steady to the sea. And my heart is beating steady to the sea.
There we go. Less than 3 minutes of Catherine Hatt. Sorry she wasn't with us today. She's in the middle of traveling at the moment, I believe. But we'll see if we get the full thing. Nice sampling. I'll give the information later. I know it's not gardening, but as I say, I'm having a hard job letting go with the water thing that we were doing in the last couple of weeks. And I'm actually going to merge the two a bit more, even more so. I've got Susan Samuel, who we've got a video later on. Hope you will. My garden certainly loves this rain. She's got some rain there. And Terry Slack Hardwick, sorry to be late, rural Maryland. But all but the last 30 seconds of B. Worth, as I say, if you missed it, B gave a lovely input of her visit to Bloom last Thursday. So it allowed us to bring Bloom to this Bloom, which was fantastic. And Anya there loved the great pictures. Beautiful. Thanks very much. Okay. As one thing we talked about, especially last week when we had Sarah on, Sarah Humble on, was the gardening at Holy Well. So I'd like to talk a bit more on that and make that connection, because it is part of the sanctuary. And I've featured videos and photographs of a wonderful restoration of beautiful sacred well. And it's all thanks to Susan Samuel, and Cliff Carr's been telling me a bit about it in the week as well. And this was the Hampton Well in Wirral. I think I've got pictured to bring it back for you there. There you go. Oops, there it's gone again. And that's what we're talking about. So that's a large one. That reminds me of the St. Patrick one up at Belcoo a bit, but that is more, that's got a real spectacular garden. And Susan forwarded me the video, photos and info, and we went through that. And today Susan is actually back with a walk around her garden, as the main theme today is our garden sanctuaries. And I had less people submit videos and photos of the garden this year compared to the previous 2 years. And as I say, perhaps it's because during the COVID lockdown, people were truly engaged in their gardens. But this year, people are more out and about instead. Probably a record number of events and festivals this weekend for the June holiday for a start. So I truly appreciate Susan sending me this video, and trust that you're going to enjoy this too. And she said it in glorious portrait mode, so excuse a lot of possible blank screen. But the one thing is, Susan's got some wonderful imagery here. It's a beautiful garden. And so I've got it lined up. Here's Susan Samuels taking you around her garden. Here we go.
Hi everyone, welcome to my garden. We've lived here 3 years now, and it's taken a lot of hard work and a little bit of a work in progress still, but welcome. Here's my pond. We live in quite a rural area, so we get a lot of interesting visitors, lots of interesting birds, as we live near the RSPB Burton Marsh. This pond was here before, and we've got 6 goldfish in. All these wires are trying to prevent the heron from taking them. He comes every morning at 8 o'clock, very hopeful. I've planted lots of different herbaceous perennials, hopefully things that the bees will like, and shelter for lots of birds and insects. We've got a lot of thick hedging around the site, and it's a great shelter for birds, especially in the winter because it's evergreen. I really wanted a lot of flowers, so I've got a combination of wildflower beds, as we see here, which will be lovely in a month or so. Oh, that's a huge wisteria on the pergola. And I really love all these flowers, a mixture of roses, lots of catmint and alchemilla mollis. The bees absolutely love it. It's alive with bees all the time, actually. And I really love all these flowers. It's really bloomed in the last, few weeks, I think. Oh, and it's such a joy to see all the bees. Oh, look, we've got all kinds of different bees. Huge bumblebees and tiny bees. We got lots of bird visitors, and it's a real joy to sit on my swinging couch there and watch them. I've started decorating a little shed. Oh, let's open the door. It's a lovely, cosy space to sit and do some drumming. Oh, let's go. To be honest with you, one of the reasons I bought this house, because this gorgeous monkey puzzle tree is such a lovely shape. And when I viewed the house, I just couldn't believe it. So that's one of the main reasons I loved the garden. There's a huge fir tree here. And up there, oh, what do we see? There's a box up in the tree. But owls don't live there. It's a family of squirrels. They're lovely things. They come and eat the bird food all the time. Oh, look, there's another one of those big bees. And then we go through to the second section, which is where I'm going to do a bit of a wilder area, really, and have more herbs and vegetables growing. I've started planting these small fruit trees. This is a pear tree. There's plum trees, apple trees, and hazelnut. I'm hoping that when they grow, we'll have a lovely avenue of fruit trees here. I've got some herb beds my husband's made for me recently. Oh, and look at my strawberries. They're amazing, aren't they? They've really grown well. I've left the garden a bit wild, to be honest with you, because we have a lot of rabbits and birds and all kinds of visitors. And although I'll redesign it next year, still probably make a wildlife pond here. I really think it's important to leave the long grass. This is a lovely little space. The rabbits hide under this tree quite a bit. And my lovely greenhouse, my husband bought for me last year. It's a work in progress, but we have plenty growing. The potatoes are coming up nicely. And even more of a wilder area here. There's a field behind, so we don't really get any disturbance. And soon this lovely tree will have some damsons on it. Thanks for taking the time to see the video of my lovely sanctuary garden.
Ah, wonderful. Thank you, Susan, for showing us around. That was fabulous. So we had there is, Susan Samuel, the sanctuary garden there. As I say, even with a narrow screen, I think we definitely got the view of it. Lovely pictures, and it was definitely appreciated by some of the comments here. And it's wonderful. We've got Breezy Kelly has appeared, and Kate Klaus Sparks with the goats, of course. And for those of you who have come on recently, the partnership is B. Smith brought us Bloom to Bloom. She gave us pictures and a talk of a visit on Thursday. We had a lovely music interlude there of Catherine Hatter with Liban as well, for those of you who will come back and watch more. And Cliff Carr, who's not far away lives not far away from Susan, lovely garden there. And Kate loved the monkey puzzle tree there. And Breezy enjoyed that garden tour. Lovely to have Breezy with us. You may be familiar with Breezy over the half door and the unfortunate thatched cottage of hers that burned down, but the community has really come together to help her out. There's a big fundraiser to get it going, because it's like a real open ceilidh place in Donegal. The people for thousands of miles come to join in a song, a story, and of course a scone and a slice of bread and a cup of, I better say, Barry's tea. So yeah, we'll tell you a bit more about Breezy at some point, for sure. And Anya Fab Garden there, thanks for sharing. And Terry Hardwick, beautiful garden. Susan, thanks for sharing beauty. It's not the last garden today, so we got a bit more of that as well. So thank you for your comments there. And right, Bee's away, and but she's got back into the garden. It was lovely to get the talk from her that we did. Beautifully presented bloom to us. For those who are going back to the beginning again after the end of the show. So to get my pictures back, I'm losing my photographs. Anyway, it was wonderful talking to Sarah Humble last week. I know that was very popular among you, and about community gardens, as well as talking about the restoration of wells. So there was a lot of chat about the community gardens around the sacred and blessed holy wells. And this has been on my mind for quite some time, because I love the idea that when people visit the sacred, blessed and holy wells, that there is other cared life around these wells. And it could be at least some fragrance and therapy from the herb plants. Just a few herb plants around the world makes a difference. Sorry, I haven't got pictures on this again. Last week there were plenty of pictures. But you putting a few flowers, when you go to a well like that, see what you can contribute or care with what's around, because you can get beautiful wildflowers that are very fragrant around. It may need a little TLC as well. Now, community may feel that the existing trees and meadow conditions and the wildflowers and the hedges are already there well and truly enough. And that is true in a lot of cases. You know, you don't need to touch it. But I think it's sometimes nice to bring, especially the herbs, a little extra. If you feel that it can integrate, not take over what was there, but to integrate and add to the whole ambience and the sanctuary of the sacred well. So that's so important, the intent of preserving the existing biodiversity, but the odd herb plant can perhaps help that biodiversity a bit. Anyway, there's a lot to be said for having handy community food resource as well, especially fruit trees, fruit shrubs, berries, and maybe some perennial vegetables as well. But the community will organically decide and bring this together. Now, during recent well restorations, and by saying recent, I'm talking about the last 5 years or so, Sarah has been traveling around, and she's been encouraged in communities to help her out, to add a community garden, or at least some plants to add to the spirit of the sacred well place that they brought back to life again. And I gather she almost let the cat out of the bag, and I suppose I'm letting the cat out of the bag a little bit. Sarah now has a partner who's very committed to facilitating the idea of gardens around wells. Though, despite that, in the end, it's always the actions of the local motivated people, I suppose the community committee, that makes these gardens happen. And often, you know, after the excitement of the water folklore, and we're talking about garden sanctuaries, bringing those together, I even got thinking about making nature folklore become more niche and just focus on the wells and their surrounding support life. But when I talk about support life, it's the trees, and we do tree folklore, plants, flowers, fungi, wildlife. And now the introduction around these wells, the permaculture style community gardens. So really it's the stuff that we present all year round anyway, so I don't need to make it any more niche. But I was thinking a few weeks ago when we were talking about riparian buffer zones. If you remember that, the idea of having a zone of life that was between the agricultural land or industrial land and the rivers and the lochs, so that the pollution from our organized living and agriculture doesn't directly go down into the rivers and pollute them. You do have this barrier, because if you have a wild barrier, it will absorb the pollutants that are coming down and actually transform them into something that's safe, and it protects the water and the river. So it acts as a filtering system, very essential. And I think that's the same thing that can happen. One of the benefits, if you have sacred spring, sacred blessed wells, holy wells, whatever you call them, anyway, the water that comes out of the ground due to nature pushing it up, to actually amplify that by having a lovely barrier or supporting, protecting the barriers around it as part of your sanctuary, as part of the protection of the water. And there's another thing too, because on Facebook particularly, suddenly I've got myself trapped into conversations about antisocial behavior and thuggery, general thuggery. And unfortunately, sometimes this happens along the Cadell Pass out of Dublin, along the Grand Canal, the Royal Canal. But however, on the Royal Canal, I did put this onto my Facebook profile as well. There's the most beautiful section of waterway that's called the Deep Sinking. And I'll just flash up a photo of that. That's the deep sinking. That's the start of it. And it truly is a Middle-earth experience to be on a boat and go through this. It goes on for several miles. And then, as well as these trees hugging each other, there's native wildflowers, fungi, wildlife, the work. And it's hard to imagine that. I'll go back on both sides. I mean, this looks as if you're in the middle of you're going along the Amazon or something like that. But each side of those shorelines is busy, highly populated, high-rise residential communities, busy retail parks, digital business offices. They're all going on, but you're just quietly going down on a boat along the Royal Canal there. And the antisocial thugs, they don't enter this area. So there you go. You've got water there that's not only keeping the water safe, but it's safe for boats, people, wildlife, and especially safe for the water that's there. So is this another essential benefit of wilderness buffers, like the riparian buffers, and also for making any sanctuary that you've got surrounded by all these flowers? It can be your garden, and you might put water feature in your garden, and the herbs that you do. It is a barrier. It becomes a sanctuary because there's that barrier from the organized living. And sadly enough, organized living seems to bring about antisocial and thuggery. And it's a lovely barrier of peace on all that. And there we have it with the canal that was done that. And it keeps organized human living and the side dish of thuggery away. And there we have the sanctuary. And I think this is our approach in our gardens as well. We don't have a canal through the garden, but I think it's the same idea of retreat, is having that barrier of real living life and biodiversity, permaculture, whatever you like to call it, all around that. So if we are part of a community caring for sacred water, well, any sacred water, I think it's essential to have a buffer of life of some form. It can be between agricultural land, residential areas, and the antisocials, and it keeps the water resources precious. And of course, one of the wonderful things about this, the antisocials actually get attracted to the idea of these retreats as well. And once they're in them, it brings them to peace as well. So they can actually integrate and suddenly be part of it. And they see the other side of life as well. Wonderful therapy all around. Anyway, a bit more about that beautiful deep sinking. Claire and I were actually navigating what's known as the Silver and Blue Line waterways of Ireland. It's a triangular route. Sorry, I haven't got a map. But it goes along the Grand Canal, up the Royal Canal, and then joins up with a section of Shannon. But on the Royal Canal, this deep sinking as I've shown you. I'll show you again. It started off as a quarry in the 17th century. This was a quarry down below here, just big hole quarry. And during the 18th century, canal was being bought. The Royal Canal was competing with the Grand Canal to see who could get the goods and passengers to the Shannon first. And so this disused quarry was adjusted so the canal can just go right through, and it meant that it didn't need to be adjusted for stringer locks that go up and down like what happens on the Grand Canal. So you can glide through the deep sinking, and there's all those trees, plants, and wildlife. As I said, it's impossible to realize that there's a barrier each side between the heavy lifestyle and that peaceful water canal. It's in the residential and retail area, if you're familiar, Leixlip and Collinstown area outside Dublin. And this is what sacred wells deserve, that natural barrier between our manufactured and manicured lives, I think. And so the precious spirit of the water and the wells remain as a remarkable therapy when we visit them, just like the blooming of our gardens. So way back, these sacred wells, natural gift of nature, they were precious essential water supply for the people. They weren't just ornaments, they were essential. People couldn't live without them. They didn't have piped water, they didn't have faucets and taps. So now perhaps we appreciate them more in the spirit of being a church, a retreat sanctuary, or a space of rehabilitation, like with Thuggery maybe. Anyway, they're there to, we get recharged. Anyway, while I was pausing with this, I was hoping I'd send in a message. We were supposed to have poet Cathal McTrina on with some more poetry, which I feel his poetry was going to follow on for this, but somehow he hasn't made it to us today, so unfortunately. Anyway, as I say, continue on this, since human existence, nature's gifted us with these wells, and through these wells, with the story of the She and the sprites and various other entities, it's been an amazing root source of folklore, and we get reflections from the wells as well. And I'll often return to the idea of sanctuary of community living within these nature barriers between organized lives and the natural living flow of the water and natural living flow of life, which is what I think permaculture is like. Anyway, I've got a lovely poem from Grace Wells, and this one's called Grass, and it starts with glorious spring flowers. Well, actually, it starts with a bit of snow, but then it goes into the spring flowers that seem so long ago now, and to our present time of dandelion clock seeds that are blowing away in the breeze, and the abundance of lush grasses that are with us to confirm it's summer now. It's a shame. I did have a picture with the lyrics on it, and I don't seem to have brought that up somehow. I wonder if I did bring it up. It's a shame I didn't. I'm going to flash through to see if no, I don't. So I'll have to read them out for you, because I was going to put the poem, the start of this poem up, but no, it's not there, unfortunately. So I'll kind of read it out to you. Well, she says it as well, but grass, I've been watching you, so slow to turn from winter to spring, then growth green and low, pushing up your language of spikelet and seed head. So here we go. This is Grace Wells with her video, Grass. This is beautiful.
Grass, I've been watching you. So slow to turn from winter to spring. then growth, green and low, pushing up your language of spikelet and seed head, soft, blousy, tufted, florets and anthers and awns. A plenitude, a beatitude, some old religious word for abundance and beauty combined. But nothing lofty, just grass, fescue, scutch, timothy, dog's tail, foxtail, hard grass, hair grass, heath. Where grain begins, where it all begins, down in the grass.
Well, thank you so much for that, Grace. And I bet you'll all be able to relate to the summer grasses there that are up and forming our meadows right now before the haymaking takes place. And I didn't show, there's, in case you forgot, there she is, there's Grace Wells herself. And the other poet we had earlier, there's Catherine Hatt there, also amongst the flowers. We had her song, excerpt from the song earlier, and we had Susan Samuel as well. And we still got Penny Stevenson to come up with her garden. So fabulous. So in the background here is quite significant because one of the past bloom gardens that had the most impact to me was it was presenting social farming. And let's get up a picture of that. I think that's it. That gets rid of me. And that's part of the social farming. And again, we got the grasses, we got the wildflowers, and pretty, it's very pretty there anyway. But social farming is integrating very much the essential practices of a farm with the needs of people that are struggling to connect. Now, I've lost my photo of this. I had to grab a from a company anyway, and the actual garden started off with this, and I think there's a lot of people can relate to this, that the despondency, melancholy lifestyle, depression, and it's as if they've just got the walls around them and there's that slit there. Look, there's something else, you know. There's kind of a lure to get beyond this, and that's what the social farming and even the social gardening, like around the wells, the about what I was saying about the boundaries around the buffers as well. You know, get out into that and have the courage to connect. So it's really to attract anyone in that sort of situation to get into this situation. So it's all about connection. This is sort of covering the realm of mental health ailments, but social farming is an integration. It's about inclusion, connection, therapy, and it's a practice to improve ourselves. Here's some more pictures from that garden. There's a bloom. What they actually did was part of one of the farms. It's near Drumshambo here. They actually cut up the farm, the field, a meadow, into squares and took it to bloom and recreated the actual garden that was the entry to the farm. And then when they finished, they took it back to Drumshambo again. Absolutely remarkable. So there it goes, that beautiful seat there. And we had this man earlier. There we go. There's the inclusion And you might recognize the man on the right there that we were talking about, the Irish president there. But, that just gives a lovely picture using that seat as part of the integration, inclusion, connection, having a chat, having a blether, and the therapy of all that. And mental health, physical health, better diet, better sleep, social skills, all this happens through the social farming. You're overcoming people there. They finally overcome fears of responsibility and decision making. So what social farming seems to do with this integration and invitation is actually bring farming back into a lifestyle like it was even as little as 50 years ago. So farming isn't just industrial. It's no longer a job to clock into, do your task, clock out, get your pay packet at the end of the week. That's it. No, it becomes the lifestyle. You're integrated in it. You are part of it. So farming becomes more than an economic practice. Farming becomes wholesome, it's therapeutic, not just for the people, as I say, not to the people just like this, who went into this, but it helps the farmer along too, because farmers don't realize what a lonely life they might lead as farmers until these social people appear and they help out. So there you go, with people helping out, it's social and it becomes therapy for the farmer too. Even with Carracrory, when I'd be working on the labyrinth gardens by myself, suddenly a bunch of volunteers appear. What a crack you have, what a lot is achieved. And it's an amazing therapy all round, as well as a good time, a good crack. And this is what Breezy, with a cottage, this is part of all what Breezy does with the bread and the cups of Barry's tea, that type of thing. Well, that's obviously this is about gardens today, but it's that similar social interaction that is so important. And so it's not just about people coming to help, it's that whole collectiveness of it all. Anyway, the farmer ends up living a role of being mentor and teacher and providing apprenticeship for those that turn up. It brings back the old role of passing down farming, just like it used to be, because it's not so automatic for passing the farm down to daughters and sons, which of course was brought out well in the field. When you got a lot of daughters and sons, and the amount of land that each has is very small. Of course, with the cut back on people having children, it's becoming a little bit more sensible now. But anyway, what an amazing connection to this is for people who were once personally shy and locked away somehow. Anyway, it may seem to be a strange subject to talk about because it is garden sanctuaries, but I think that's part of it, is when you've got the gardens. Some of the people won't be here today, not only because of Bloom, but an organization we used to be part of when the Labyrinth Gardens here was the Secret Gardens of Sligo. And every Sunday, sometimes Saturday, you have a bunch of people around and it becomes a crack, a chat, the cups of tea, the scones, and people walk around and talk about the gardens. Of course, it is about gardens, but it's all about the bringing of people together and the social look. This is life. We got all this life around us. So the people on social farming, the farming becomes sanctuary for them too. So look it up. There's Google there, social farming, and especially if you're a farmer, to see if it's something you'd like to join in with. Anyway, I'm going to return to Garden Sanctuaries because that's the subject today. And I said we've got Penny Stevenson, who's going to be sharing her sanctuary. She sent me a video. God, I'm running over time already. Well and truly over time. So here's Penny Stevenson's video. Might have to rewind it to the beginning because I accidentally got it going. So this is Penny Stevens introducing
it's
to
not
her
long
garden.
since sun came up.
Right back to the beginning again.
Good morning to my garden in North Lincolnshire. It's not long since the sun came up and there's a light breeze just catching the leaves in the lovely common limes in my front garden. My roses are in full bloom down here. That's my hydrangea petularis. It's just flowered for the first time. It's planted about 5 years ago. Middle garden, which connects the front to the back. I've got a wall of ivy here. And I also get lots of little wrens here I've had nesting wrens as well in the garden. I've got some more roses here that are really coming on nicely. The bees are already busy in the garden, working on some sage. A lavender bench, and it's very nice to sit in that in the evening. Lovely perfume when you touch the lavender. And I have another little fernery area here with some shield ferns. They're just lovely, aren't they? Got a large vine that I just put in about 2 years ago, and that's just starting to fruit this year. A hop, and that's been doing really well this year. And I hope to maybe get some hops on that. Have a go at making beer this year. And near this large Cotoneaster, you can just, I don't know if you can catch that against the wings of that pigeon, but I've got bees, it's alive with bees. Another large vine here, which does quite well. Usually manage to get grapes from this. And there we are, looking down my garden towards St Andrew's Church. And I have some fruit trees. I have this lovely quince. It's been up for about 5 years, and that's really started to get shoots into the ground. And the quince fruits are so lovely, they smell beautiful. Bringing them into the house is a pleasure. And this is my Christmas pippin, which is also bearing fruit now. And I've got it underplanted with some roses and an echium. The bees love this echium. And here we have this lovely rose. This is flower number 2. But I mostly grow it for these lovely red sort of leaves that come out first on the ends of the branches. Now stepping through the archway, it's flanked by these lovely hazels. And this year I had my first catkins. These have been in for about 5 years as well. Stepping through, this is my sort of vegetable area. Although the veggies aren't doing too well this year because I've not been about a lot. And then we had heavy rain and the slugs have had a real go. I've got my little Mirabelle, which is a half standard, and that's actually fruiting for the first time this year. Here's another fruit tree. This is a bardsey. I'm very fond of this little tree. The apples are really tasty as well. And for such a small tree, you know, it always bears quite a lot of fruit. You can see my Morello cherry. The garden's quite free. I let visitors like these beautiful foxgloves in. This is the James Grieve. That's usually a heavy cropper. Very useful. I love medlar. I love the flowers in spring. And I love the fruits actually. They're so interesting. That's them just starting to form. And I love medlar jelly, but a lot of people are not keen. I love them. A little sort of woodland dogwood area. And at the back there I've let nettles grow because they're a good nectar source as well. This is the latest addition, this mulberry tree. I don't know, I was just drawn to it. It's the St James, the first of the 6 of Scotland from the Physic Garden strain. So it's quite nice to have a little bit of something historical in the garden. You can see the roses starting to come up around the arch. That one's called Ghislaine de Filigonde. It's a bit of a mouthful, but she's a beautiful little rose. And here I have my beautiful elder. It's just starting to come into flower. And I'm hoping to maybe get elderberries off it this year. And underneath here I've got my little shrine to St Bridget, which is still alight from last night because I was keeping the flame. And my little hare. Anyway, that's my garden and I hope you enjoyed seeing it here. Bye for now. Bye.
Thanks so much for that, Penny. That was beautiful, another beautiful garden for us today. And yeah, a few comments. There's Breezy was saying that she's been able to get a good, decent signal. And so that's great. Beautiful garden, Susan from Terry Slack here. And again, lovely video, Grace. Beautiful done. Thank you. Breezy says, you lift my heart. That works two ways, Breezy. Definitely well and truly. You raise the hearts of a lot of people there. And Cliff Carr, lovely that your guests have shared their gardens, John. Beautiful. And Penny, what glorious tour. Thank you for sharing from Terry there. And Gabriel Brody here. Brilliant, delightful. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching and joining with us. And as I mentioned, start the sessions. Made possible with the support of Patreon subscribers. There as my everything else. My expenses are going up. I need this to help cover the monthly payments for the streaming subscriptions and other services, which is going to include the Hive next week that makes the show possible. And that's why I put a picture of the center of the tree labyrinth in Carrowcrory. The tree labyrinth is, sorry I couldn't be outside today with it. I haven't been able to move equipment in and out like you used to. But I thought I'd have a farewell to Carrowcrory by having the backcloth where we have had some of these nature folklore shows live from. Before there was an online nature folklore, that's one of the places we will congregate as well and have quite a crack, as well as in the thatch cottage as well. But subscription is the usual, just $1, euro, or pound a week or a month even. It does wonders to keep things going. And the Buy Me a Coffee has become very popular because some people don't like paying through the PayPal. You just use a card with that. That goes through Stripe, which is Stripe's everywhere now. So that's the other option as well. So thanks very much for helping on that. Coming up, this is the series of our blooming series. So that sounds odd, doesn't it? Always saying odd. Maybe I need to change that. But the 12th of June, I've moved the Midsummer Gathering. I usually have that closest to the solstice, but because moving from here and setting up in the Hive in Carrick-on-Shannon, which has got more facilities, it's a lot nearer for me. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I'm going to set the equipment up, so it's going to be a little guinea piggish, but it's going to be a more powerful, more stable signal and more resources. So in the end, it should be a better venue for this type of work anyway. So we're doing the Midsummer Gathering. What we're doing Midsummer Gathering, what we usually do, it's pretty much a free-for-all. Any stories, poems that you have related to midsummer reflections, yourself a midsummer, and what you're inspired with, even continuing with your gardens, your walks, your hikes, all the wonderful things that we do in the sunlight of midsummer. I would love to feature you live or your videos like we've had today. So just submit them. It's very open-ended, as long as it's sort of shares the joys of summer and is a crack all round. That's what we're doing next week. So I assume we'll be able to adapt okay to the broadcasting. The room that I'm going to be using is terrific, and the signal from it is much more powerful internet service. So stories, poems, anything you connect to midsummer solstice, about your gardens, about herbs, flowers, trees, wildlife around you, even more about the holy wells. I'd love to get something from you. 19th of June. Normally it would have been next week, but sound bathing. Nobody's booked for this yet because June is a very busy month for sound bathing people. So if you know anybody or you're involved in sound bathing, we'd love to integrate the folklore of sound in on the 19th, along with people involved with the sound bathing. So bringing the two together, the folklore of sound along with the sound bathing practices. So that's going to be on the 19th. So who'd like to contribute to that? And then the last one in the series, 26th of June, Rewilding Ourselves. And with the rewilding title, we may think about letting go of part of our gardens, like the The gardens are on video today. We're talking about that. Let part of it go back to nature, go back to being wild. And most people are now familiar with the wonderful community of We Are the Ark, encouraged by Mary Reynolds, that's beautifully popularized this. So this is the nature folklore of the Ark, I suppose. But we will go more intimately in the changes that we may need to accomplish within ourselves in order to accomplish rewilding. We may love the current rewilding concepts as far as our gardens go, but our inner culture and mindset remains neat and tidy. We might be on a lot of the time a neat and tidy quest, almost like I was saying. You got the water, you got the buffer zones, and you got the neat and tidy, which often isn't so neat and tidy. It creates, neat and tidy can cause pollution in its own way. So any rewilding we may do is always a test the waters approach, I think, literally. Anyway, so through this Nature Folklore edition, we'll explore with some reference to folklore and how our living can be less control motivated, more adaptive, and thus feeling less stressed and becoming more aware from being. So by being less stressed, we become more aware and perceptive, of course. So is there any more comments from you, questions? It's been lovely presenting all this to you today. That seems to be that. Anyway, so thanks to our amazing guests, B. Smith, who kicked us off with Bloom, Catherine Hatt. We had Susan Samuel, Grace Wells, and Penny Stevenson. Fantastic lineup there. Now, if you're watching this after the broadcast, I'm going back, of course, to the archive, the public archive, where you can watch again at your own leisure. Please keep the comments going. I do return from time to time and answer comments with more comments. So you can subscribe where the bell is, and I'll let you know each week what the upcoming Nature Folklore is going to be. So that'd be lovely if you can subscribe. Also helps me, especially with the YouTube. We didn't have any YouTube people through today, did we? That's very unusual. I hope things are okay. And you, I know. That's me. I didn't post on the channels that bring the YouTube customers. That's why we didn't have YouTube people. Just realized I was so busy this week that I didn't go to the outlets that bring our YouTube people anyway. We'll catch up with them another time. So enjoy a safe week, full of wonder, inspirations, and enchantments. So until next Sunday, play well and have a wonderful week. Thank you for being with me through our Garden Sanctuaries this week. So until next week, when we'll have the free-for-all midsummer crack. Anyway, thank you so much for being with me. Have a wonderful week. Bye.